Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into Palantir Technologies. They're a company that's been making waves recently. They just joined the S&P 500, and their stock has, get this, surged over 300% this year alone.
Wow.
But here's where it gets interesting. Some analysts out there, they're predicting a potential drop in 2025. So what's the deal with this company? What's the story?
Well, Palantir is not your typical AI company. They don't really make hardware. What they've done is they've built this platform. It helps organizations, especially government agencies, to analyze huge amounts of data.
Oh, the government, huh? So wait, they're the best performing stock in the S&P 500, and they're focused on data for the government. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? It's this unique approach to data that's making people so interested.
So they're not like building robots or self-driving cars or anything like that. What exactly are they doing with all this data?
That's a good question. See, their platform, it does more than just organizing data. Imagine connecting pieces of information that seem completely unrelated. Then you use that to reveal hidden patterns and insights. Think of it like a detective for all your data, finding connections you'd never see on your own.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, but can you maybe give me like a specific example? How would this detective work? How would it play out in the real world?
Okay, sure. Let's say you're running a hospital, you're trying to, improve patient care, be more efficient. Palantir could come in and connect all sorts of data from medical records, staff schedules, even stuff like supply chain logistics. By analyzing all that, they might find things like bottlenecks in how patients move through the hospital. Maybe they predict shortages of important supplies, or even, figure out the best way to schedule staff based on how many patients are expected.
That's wild. So it's not just crunching numbers, it's finding these like meaningful connections that can actually make things better.
Right.
Now, our sources mentioned something about their client base. Apparently, it's been growing really fast, especially in the commercial sector.
It's true. It's been remarkable.
Can you tell me more about that?
In just 4 years, they've gone from working with just a few commercial clients, like 14 to be exact, to now, get this, over 300.
Wow, that's incredible growth.
And their strategy for getting these new customers, it's interesting.
I'm all ears.
They've got these AIP boot camps.
AIP boot camps, what are those?
AIP stands for Applied Intelligence Platform, which is their main product. These boot camps are basically intensive workshops where potential clients get to actually experience the platform themselves. They see how it works, how it applies to their specific problems, and they get to see the insights that it generates.
Oh, so it's a way of showing clients the real value, a hands-on kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see how that'd be effective. I think our sources mentioned that Palantir's been closing some really big deals because of these boot camps.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've reported lots of seven-figure deals, signed in less than 2 months. It really shows how well this approach works.
That's amazing. It sounds like they've really found a winning formula.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that's throwing me off. We've got this crazy growth story, a stock that's just gone through the roof. And yet Wall Street analysts are predicting this drop in Palantir's stock price in 2025. Why would that be, for a company that seems to be doing so well?
To understand that, we got to look at how stock values are often evaluated, especially in the short term. A key factor is the price-to-earnings ratio, or PE ratio. It basically compares a company's stock price to its earnings per share.
Okay, so the PE ratio tells us, how the market is valuing the company's stock compared to its actual earnings.
Exactly. And right now, Palantir's PE ratio is super high, 185 times earnings.
Whoa, that's high.
It suggests that investors are really optimistic about Palantir's future growth, and they're willing to pay a premium for its stock.
So a high PE ratio basically means the market expects big things from the company in the future.
Precisely. But it also means the stock price is, sensitive to changes in those expectations. If the growth doesn't live up to those super high expectations, even a little dip in projected earnings could lead to a bigger drop in stock price.
Oh, I see.
And that's probably what those analysts are looking at. They're focused on the short-term picture.
That makes sense. So Palantir's doing great now, but some analysts are, waving a warning flag about their long-term prospects, trying to predict the future of a company like this, especially one that's dealing with, a tech that's changing so fast like AI. It must be super complicated.
It is. It definitely is.
And it leads to a really interesting question. How much weight should we actually give to these short-term predictions? When we're talking about a company like Palantir that's working in a field as dynamic as AI.
That's a great question, and I bet our listeners are wondering the same thing.
Yeah. It seems like there's a lot more to unpack here.
Yeah, it's a classic dilemma, trying to balance the excitement of all this growth with, the uncertainty of what the future holds.
So are you saying we should just ignore these Wall Street predictions?
Not necessarily ignore them, but you got to understand where they're coming from. Remember, these analysts are mainly looking at short-term financial performance. They're focused on immediate returns, and they might be missing the bigger picture, the long-term impact that Palantir could have.
It sounds like you're saying we need to, zoom out a bit, look beyond just the numbers to really understand a company like this.
Exactly. It's like judging how well a tree will grow just by looking at how much it grew in the first year. You need to look at the whole picture.
Right.
Like, what kind of tree is it? What environment is it growing in? What's its potential over many years? Same thing with Palantir. We need to think about the big implications of AI and how it could totally change different industries.
Okay, so let's say we're not just looking at the stock price. What are some other ways to kind of assess Palantir's potential? What should our listeners be paying attention to?
Okay, well, first, look at their clients. They've got clients in government, healthcare, finance, energy, all over the place. This shows that their platform isn't just a one-trick pony. It can adapt and solve different problems across all these industries.
So a diverse client base is a good sign.
Exactly. Another thing to look at is, what kind of problems are they solving? Palantir is tackling some really tough stuff. Counterterrorism, fraud detection, optimizing supply chains. But these are not easy problems to crack.
Yeah, if they can solve those problems, that's a big deal.
Right. And if they're successful, the impact could be massive.
So the complexity and the scale of the problems they're going after is another good indicator.
Yep.
Even if it's not immediately reflected in their stock price.
Exactly. And finally, keep an eye on their tech. Are they still leading the pack in AI and data analytics? Are they making new tools and applications? That's key in a field that's changing so fast.
You've given us a lot to think about. So we have this company, Palantir, powerful data analysis platform, stock price going crazy. But some analysts are cautious. It feels like they're at a crossroads.
It does, doesn't it?
Lots of potential, but also a lot of unknowns about what's next.
That's the exciting and sometimes kind of scary reality of companies working with these cutting-edge technologies.
Right.
The possibilities are huge, but it's impossible to predict the future with certainty.
All this talk about their data analysis platform, it's made me wonder, how does it actually work? Can you maybe give us a peek under the hood?
Sure. One of the things that makes Palantir different is their focus on ontology.
Ontology.
Basically, it's a way of organizing data that's way more sophisticated than just keywords or categories. Think of it like building a digital model of the real world, where all the different pieces of data are connected in a meaningful way, showing how they relate to each other.
So like a virtual map of information.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And because of this ontology, their platform can do some really cool things. For example, it can spot those subtle patterns that you'd miss with regular data analysis. And it can answer those complex questions, the ones that need information from lots of different sources.
That sounds incredibly powerful.
It is.
Can you give an example of how this ontology thing has been used in real life?
Yeah, definitely. One example is in intelligence gathering. Say investigators are trying to track down a, suspected terrorist. With Palantir, they can bring together all sorts of data: financial transactions, travel records, social media, even intercepted communications, and create a complete picture of this person's activities and connections.
Wow.
The platform can even spot potential accomplices, predict what they might do next, and uncover hidden funding sources.
So it's not just about finding a needle in a haystack. It's about understanding the whole haystack, how everything's connected.
Exactly.
So you can find those hidden threats.
Right, and that same approach can be used in other areas: fraud detection, healthcare, cybersecurity. By really understanding how different data points relate to each other, Palantir can find pattern and anomalies that would be missed with traditional methods.
This all sounds super complex.
It is.
Are there any, downsides or concerns we should be aware of with this kind of technology?
That's a good point. Any powerful tool can have potential risks. One concern is, bias in the data itself. If the data used to train the algorithms is messed up or incomplete, the results will be messed up too.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
So making sure the data is accurate and representative, that's super important.
Yes, absolutely. Another concern is privacy. Since Palantir can connect all this data, there's a risk that sensitive information could be exposed.
Or even misused.
Right, so strong safeguards are crucial.
To protect people's privacy and prevent data breaches.
Exactly.
It seems like the more powerful the tech gets, the more important it is to use it ethically
Couldn't agree more.
and responsibly.
Those are the kinds of conversations we need to have as AI keeps getting smarter and more integrated into our lives.
This has been really insightful. We've covered so much ground today.
We have.
Palantir's unique approach to data analysis, the challenges of figuring out their future. It's clear they're pushing the limits of what's possible with AI. But they're also raising important questions about how we develop and use these powerful technologies responsibly. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Palantir Technologies, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the main thing is that Palantir, it really shows us how AI is changing things. They've proven that data, when you analyze it the right way, can be this incredibly powerful tool for solving all sorts of problems in all kinds of industries.
It's not just about having the data, it's about actually understanding it, right?
Right.
Connecting the dots to get those insights.
It seems like Palantir's success, it really comes down to their ability to go beyond those traditional ways of analyzing data.
Exactly. They focus on ontology, on really getting a deep understanding of how all the different data points are connected. That's what makes them different.
Yeah, and that's what lets them answer those tough questions and find patterns that regular methods would just miss completely.
But as we talked about, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The potential for bias, the need to protect people's privacy, those are huge issues as AI becomes more common.
Could agree more. We can't just blindly adopt these technologies without thinking about the ethics and the potential risks.
Right. As AI keeps evolving, we need to have these open and honest discussions about how to develop and use it responsibly.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about Palantir's technology, their amazing growth, the good and the bad. But there's one thing we haven't really addressed. Those Wall Street predictions about a possible drop in their stock price in 2025. How should our listeners think about those predictions given everything we've learned today?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were saying before about different perspectives. Wall Street analysts, they're looking at things through a financial lens. They're focused on short-term performance, looking at things like quarterly earnings.
And as we discussed, with a company like Palantir, that's working in such a fast-paced field like AI, those short-term numbers might not tell the whole story.
Exactly. The real impact of AI might not be clear for years, even decades. It's about the long game, the potential to completely transform how industries work, how we solve problems, even how we live our lives.
So while those Wall Street predictions might matter to some investors, they shouldn't distract us from the bigger picture of what Palantir is trying to do.
I agree. Their mission, as they put it, is to build software that makes the world a safer and more just place. Now, whether they can actually achieve that, that's still to be seen. But it's a goal that goes way beyond just making money.
Yeah, it reminds us that sometimes we got to look beyond the numbers and think about the bigger implications of these new technologies.
It's like judging the success of, let's say, the space program. Just based on how much it cost, you'd miss the whole point. The scientific discoveries, the inspiration it gave people, the way it changed our understanding of the universe. With companies like Palantir, we got to look at the long-term possibilities, the potential to tackle those really big challenges.
I think you've given our listeners a lot to think about. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Palantir Technologies, what's the one question you'd want our listeners to consider as they continue to explore this company and the world of AI in general?
The question I'd ask is this. As AI becomes more powerful and more a part of our lives, what role do we want it to play? As individuals, as a society, do we see it as a force for good, something that can help us solve our biggest problems? Or are we more cautious, worried about the risks and the unintended consequences? The answers are complicated, and they'll probably change over time.
Right.
But it's a conversation we need to have, and we need to have it now.
That's a great question to end on. I think this deep dive has given us all a fresh perspective on Palantir and this whole world of AI. Thanks for joining us today, and until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.